So today we have Angela Lee coming on, and she is the atom weight champion with one.
Let me tell you a little bit of her backstory here, right?
Hit me.
Angela's our atom weight champion, which is the 115-pound weight class. She moves up to 125 straw weight.
Okay.
Decides that she's going to challenge Zhong Jingnang, who is she's from China, and she's our straw weight champ.
Okay.
She ends up losing that match. She stays in the weight class and loses another match. So she has 2 back-to-back losses and decides to go back down to atom weight to defend her belt.
Right.
Guess who she meets at atom weight? Zhong drops from straw weight and says, now I'm coming after your belt because I already beat you.
But she didn't do it.
No. So Angela ends up defeating her. Now, then Angela ends up pregnant and she's out for a year and a half. The organization decides not to strip her of her belt. I got to clarify. So it's typical that if you don't defend your belt within a year, that an organization will either strip you of your belt or there'll be an interim champ or something like that.
Which is pretty fair.
Yeah. But because she's pregnant and having a child, they decide not to her. There's a year and a half storyline built off of Angela being pregnant. We do an entire 8-man atomweight Grand Prix with the 8 best female fighters in the weight class who are looking for, like, basically headhunting her off of this thing.
Wow.
So they go through this 8-man tournament over this pretty much year and a half period. Champion comes out of that, Stamp Fairtex. Angela comes out of this pregnancy and having her baby.
Yep.
And has to defeat Stamp. Gets shot in the liver, like gets this liver hit. So I want to talk to her about this. But now off of that, she's going to go back up to straw weight and fight Zhong again. And so this is a lot of time in the making to see all this happening.
Dude, it sounds like it. Is there any beef between these two?
I mean, no, not really. I think both women are too respectful, but I will say that Angela had posted on her socials, that on her Instagram, that she was not too impressed with Zhong's performances lately, and that Zhong was just fighting to not lose rather than to win. To which Zhong replied like, "Well, we'll see what I finish you with." Essentially, like, she basically said, "All right, we'll see come
for her head,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, Prime Video 2.
Prime Video 2. So that's really cool though.
Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah.
So that's awesome, dude.
So listen, we can get it straight from Angela. See what she has to say.
Let's
about
bring her in.
Quite frankly, it's kind of unusual.
It's quite Franklin.
Got it. Quite Franklin.
How was training today? What did you get into?
It was good. I just had like a one-on-one session with my dad, and he held some mitts for me, and we just went over some strategy and stuff. So feeling good. We're like 1 week until flying out. Today
was a technique and strategy day. You weren't getting into any kind of conditioning or anything like that?
Yeah, mostly just like strategy and going over the game plan.
All right. What is the game plan?
Oh, I'm going to touch her up on the feet. I mean, everyone I know assumes that I'm just going to try and shoot and take her down. But yeah, I want to definitely make sure that she's trading and I touch her before I take her down, and I don't know, try and TKO her or something. So we'll see. I mean, if the submission's there, I'm not going to turn it down. But.
Yeah, obviously. Well, you know what? Because I was watching your last fights, I wouldn't think that you would shy away from throwing hands with her, because you came out at the beginning of the match. You're like, I'm ready to throw down. So I wouldn't think that you would immediately be looking for the takedown anyway, based on your last 2 performances.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling really confident in the striking area, and I feel like, I don't know, like, I feel like it's starting to come together finally, like after all these years of training and stuff. Like my last fight with Stamp, that's like the most comfortable I felt on the feet. And then that took like so many years until now. So I'm just excited, to I don't know. I think it's going to be a completely different fight this time around than the first 2.
For the listeners, let's take a step back and explain to them what's going on here. Would you actually call this a rubber match? Because it's the 3rd match, but you guys have bounced between 2 weight classes. So set the stage for the listeners so that they know what's going on, because not everybody knows like you and I know.
Yeah, no. So in 2019, that was when I first fought Zhong Jingnan, and I was going up in my weight division to challenge her at strawweight. And
which is 125.
Yeah, which is 125.
Yeah.
So I know I always have to say this name, but with the weight category too, so people don't get confused.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was the first time fighting, and I feel like my preparation, definitely, showed in the results. I had to postpone the fight. We were actually supposed to fight in November of 2018, but then I had a back injury.
Oh,
so we
that's
pushed
right.
it to
I forgot
March
about
of
that.
2019. I mean, looking back now, it wasn't enough time, but I just didn't want to turn down the opportunity. And so we prepared the best we could with what we had. And yeah, I mean, I was very close to finishing her in the 4th, and then in the 5th, I just had no more gas left in me. And yeah, that's how it went the first time.
So then that was in March. Then in November of that same year, she came down to your weight class at atom weight, and which is 115 for listeners, and challenged you there for your belt.
Right. Yeah. So she wanted to become the first double champ, female double champ in one, and she wanted to come down and challenge me for my title. So obviously I was like, I'm going to be defending this with everything I have, and finished her in the last round, and with very few seconds, I think 10 seconds left in the final round. So that was very satisfying. And yet now it's been 3 years since then. So it's 3 years, and I'm stepping up in weight to challenge her once more and claim that strawweight belt.
Do you think that the last time the step up in weight, the extra weight, was an issue for you with gas, poparticularly with the fact that the fight was postponed, you didn't have enough time to prep, whether the back injury came into play, whatever that is? Do you think that extra poundage made a difference in your performance?
So the thing is, my natural walk around weight is actually like 125. Like, I haven't had to worry about my weight this entire camp. The reason why I think I was at a disadvantage in the first time we fought was because I could not run on a treadmill. I could not do live rounds because of my back. Like, I had to protect it. And, we did all the drills and stuff, but we couldn't push to where I needed to be for a championship level fight without compromising my back. So it was trying to balance things. And of course, no fight camp is perfect. There's going to be injuries here and there, but with that disc, my slip disc and the pinched nerve, it was really difficult to train while doing that.
The body shot that she landed in that, I think that was in the 5th round, was it not? She landed a nice body kick there. Did that empty the tank, or were you already kind of fading? Could you tell that your conditioning, because you were still maintaining a good pace, could you tell that your conditioning was starting to wean, or was it the body kick that kind of set up the drop in the gas tank?
What really took me out was actually me going for that submission in the 4th round. I had a reverse or inverted triangle, and I was trying to squeeze that and finish her with the arm bar. Made a technical error on the arm bar, and she was able to escape. And it was tight at one point, but then I feel like just one technical error, she was able to turn her elbow down and get the space she needed to turn over. And then that completely wiped me out. I was squeezing so hard, my legs were jelly. I walked back to my corner, and I was just you can see when I start the 5th round, I was just oh boy, not a good feeling.
I've seen myself when I'm in a fight, and I can watch film of when I can watch film of me and Anderson, and when Anderson caught me, particularly with a knee in the stomach, and I can see me step back and break off, and I can see that look of deflation in my face. And it's that moment of when I broke. And normally I can see, particularly with my conditioning, I can always see that in my opponent. I always break my opponent. I've never in a match ever been broken due to conditioning, or where I've overexerted on a particular technique or anything. Fortunately, because I don't coming out in the 5th round like that, it's got to be just a terrible feeling of oh God, I'm already low in the gas tank.
Yeah, at that point I was just trying to get air, trying to see how long I could try and stall to get myself some recovery. But I think she sensed it. My back was against the cage, and I wasn't defending well, and she just capitalized on that moment. So props to her.
How has things changed for you from the preparation of the first fight with her versus this one? And I'm asking that question, I'm trying to think about how this applies to life. Obviously there's an evolution to your training, right? What was it like training for your first camp in one championship versus say your last fight in one championship? Obviously opponents make a difference, but I mean, what has changed as far as what you've learned about the game, not specifically tailoring it towards opponents?
Yeah, with each fight and over with more and more time, with more and more years in the game, you definitely figure out more about yourself. So I feel like a lot of self-discovery was made. For me, gaining the confidence to stand and bang, that was a big thing because, for me, everyone knows like I'm a submission specialist, like on the grounds where I thrive, and I love putting together submissions and transitions. But yeah, I mean, I can take a punch, but just feeling comfortable exchanging on the feet, not just block, 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 strike. Okay, I'm going to try and take you down and in. So I think just over the years, of course the drills, but also more and more live rounds, more and more live fights. And then just taking a step back and seeing, I guess, I don't know. For me, like, I just feel a lot more comfortable now on the feet. And I think that's just due to a bunch of those things that I mentioned. But yeah, it's a great feeling to know that I'm good anywhere. I mean, like, it's mixed martial arts, it's MMA. You have to have a complete game. And that's why I feel like no problem, wherever the fight may go.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, whenever you're fighting somebody, there's a path of least resistance to winning, which is what your game plan should be, right? I mean, what I used to do when with my coaches is we would look at, like my strengths and my weaknesses, and then my opponent's strengths and weaknesses, and kind of put that in a matrix, so to speak, and say, like, here's how you match, and this is your path of least resistance. So that's going to be our game plan. But keeping yourself well-rounded, obviously, is what you're capable of falling back on. I mean, for me, I was never known as a submission specialist. I only had one sub in the UFC, but I knew really well that I could handle myself on the ground. Like, even if I wasn't able to submit you were going to have trouble holding me down. So I could strike with confidence and use high level jiu-jitsu to complement those things that I do well anyway, which I think for you, if you end up TKOing, or that's how you end up doing that, is by using your grappling, wrestling, however you're going to approach that, feinting shots, takedowns, getting her on the ground a little bit, peppering her up, and then getting back to the feet, and then, continue with that TKO on the feet. So anyway, but does your nerves, are you as nervous for, like, coming into your last match? How do your nerves play in versus like your first match in one on the big stage? Same, different, more? Is there more at stake? I mean, because you mentioned Stamp earlier, we'll get back to her, but I mean, there was, and we'll tell the whole story, but there was an entire 1 year storyline built upon, more than a year and a half, we'll call it, storyline built upon you, pregnancy, having a baby, all that time off, returning, and we'll get into all this stuff deeper, but was there more pressure coming back from that? What were the nerves like for a fight like that versus your first one?
That fight camp was just a roller coaster of emotions for me. I mean, there was a huge amount of pressure, but I knew, like, this is what I had to do. And I knew from the moment I got pregnant that I was going to still keep fighting. So that was one thing that was like non-negotiable. I was like, no matter what, I'm getting back in the cage. I'm doing that. But the journey of, okay, how do we get, back to the shape I was, or better even, for me, and I think a lot of people overlook this, is so much mental, so much like, well, I'm a female fighter. There's a lot of emotions involved. And the first few weeks of that fight camp, man, I was just down. I was beating myself up. I was like,
emotionally, you mean down?
Yeah, literally. I'd step in the cage, and my sparring partners would be, we'd try to be sparring, and we'd be throwing at each other. And I couldn't even throw a punch. Like, I was just so frozen in my mind, and I was overwhelmed with just like fear and just too much anxiety. I couldn't even throw a punch. And so that camp was like not double, but like triple the amount of time that I would usually get ready for a fight. And I needed those extra weeks and months of preparation because, I was out for like, a good 2 years, and not just out, but like pregnant and having a baby, and like getting back from all of that needed like a lot of rehabilitation physically, but more mentally. I mean, I told everyone I never checked out. I was still watching training and stuff. But of course, like when you're away from actually like throwing a punch and actually getting hit for that amount of time, it like messes with you. And then your confidence drops. And so like I just had to like slowly build it back up. And there was ups and downs, but each week got a little better. And then, you know, when it was actually like 8 weeks out, I was feeling good. I was feeling confident. And then, you know, we could actually work on strategy and then the game plan from there. So yeah, that was a long camp, but it was just necessary.
I can only imagine, you know, like I could never get pregnant in my life, but I can only imagine like I've never been tested actually. And so that's what anytime I fill out a medical form and it's like, you know, do you suffer from like shortness of breath? Are you pregnant? And I'm like, I've not been tested for this, so I can't accurately answer this question.
I'm not gonna lie. At the doctor, I always check maybe.
Yeah, not a bad idea. But you know, coming off of something like that, I can only imagine that like, and people don't take this into account, but your hormone profile must have just been completely out of whack. So like a small lack of confidence from time off, or even a decent sized lack of confidence from time off only gets amplified by this hormone profile that your body is not used to dealing with. And, you know, you and I chatted about this when I saw you in LA, but particularly like, for example, Bethany Hamilton, when I interviewed Bethany Hamilton and she told me that when she was doing the world championships, that in between heats, she was breastfeeding her baby. I'm like, I mean, this essentially like this baby is taking life force from you and you're in like high level competition. Like it is not easy to swim in these waves. So whether you're out in the ocean swimming or doing what you're doing, you know, grinding in the cage or whatever, it's how was that coming back? Like energy levels. And I mean, how much of that do you think like hormones playing in and just the state of having given birth? Cause you did breastfeed for the first, I don't know, maybe still, I don't know. I mean, but you breastfed, right?
Yeah. So there's so much to take into account. Like during the pregnancy and postpartum, like right after pregnancy, I feel like women were at our most vulnerable state just because of everything that we went through. And I mean, like, so emotions and everything, feelings are amplified. There's this little life that depends solely on you to provide,
which is a huge change because like just a few weeks earlier that wasn't there.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. Like we tried to feed her with a bottle, but she didn't take it. So it was me. It was all on me to breastfeed her, waking up every 2 hours. Like seriously, that's the thing. Like so getting like no sleep and then trying to, you know, rehab my body and get back in the gym. And it was tough. It was tough. But yeah, I mean, especially when my body was okay and then I started to get back into training, hearing her cry and then trying to focus on the drill that we were doing, it was really difficult at first. Like it was really hard for me to do. And then I would also feel this like mom guilt of, why am I here training and doing this? Like I should be taking care of her. And, you know, she's in good hands. She's with my husband. She's with my mom. But I still like I had to tell myself and I had to like be like, okay, you know what? Like this is like my time, Angela's time to just focus on me. And like the way that I'm able to be a better mom is if I can go in here and do this and get my workout in and I can go back to my baby and like, you know what I mean? So I had to like tell myself, like balance it, like tell myself it's okay to be out here and doing this. But yeah, I mean, so much like psychology, like being a mom fighter. Yeah, it's I would have never guessed that this comes with all of it if before I had a baby, you know, I couldn't understand it.
You just basically made me more appreciative of the fact that I'm a man. Right. Because like, I would not want, like I can pee standing up. I don't have to worry about all that. Like, you know, I can go into the gym and still train. And yeah, so it's like, oh man. I mean, I don't have kids either though. So I would imagine if I had a kid, even though I didn't carry the kid, there would probably maybe be a slight amount of guilt. Like, you know, I should be, you know, checking on my kid or something like that. Perhaps, I don't know, but nonetheless, like I didn't carry the baby, so it's not the same. And just the whole physical recovery of the body and everything, I can't like, because listen, from the outside, here's what happens. Angela's in fighting form, any female athlete, you're in fighting form, and then suddenly you disappear for a little while because you're going through pregnancy, and then you come back and you're in fighting form again. And nobody sees, the public don't see the in-between stuff. So it's just like, oh, it's that easy. Like, she did it. No big deal, right? And they don't realize like how difficult it is when you're in the ring, or when you're waking up every 2 hours at night, or when somebody is breastfeeding their child in between racing heats at the World Championship surfing, right? Like you don't think about that because physically you look the same as you did before the baby, and both physically the way your physique looks, but as well as your performance. So it's just that easy. I don't know what you're complaining about, Angela. Like,
yeah, no, I mean, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. And of course, like, my whole thing is like, I always wanted for people to see the whole story, you know, but it's also hard because there's so many things that I don't think people would want to know too, but it's the truth. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, there was times where I had to go to the hospital because like I had like an infection and I couldn't like feed my baby, and she was just like a few days old, and like I was like crying and like getting punched in this area like while you're breastfeeding, and like everything's like engorged. Oh, it's like painful, so painful. It's just like things that like that, like it's like TMI for some people, but it's the truth that we have to deal with. And like,
well, I think that's actually essential information that people need to know, because it's that kind of stuff that make fans really fall in love with you. Like you can go into the gym and train every day. You train hard. I know you train hard, and we'll get into like your family and your team and everything else, but every athlete goes in the gym and trains hard. We all grind. But what makes you different than everybody else, right? It's like, let me tell you about the sacrifice. Like, let me tell you about how hard life really is. Because like I said, you know, you go off the scene. I don't know anything about pregnancy firsthand necessarily. I've never had a baby. That I can say for sure. Whether I'm pregnant or not, I can't. But for sure, I can say I've never had a baby. So it's like I said, you look a certain way, you perform a certain way, you disappear, and then you come back and you look a certain way and perform a certain way. And it's like I said, it's just like voila. It's that easy. I mean, I'm sure any woman that you start talking about this pregnancy would be like, I wonder how she handled getting hit in the breasts. I wonder how she, like, man, I was an emotional wreck after my pregnancy. Like, I wouldn't think of that. And a lot of people probably wouldn't think of that. And so I don't think that's too much information for people. I think that's the kind of stuff that people know, like what you really truly had to grind through behind the scenes is what makes a champion a champion. And that's why you got the strap, you know what I mean? Because you're doing things that other women can't do. In the meantime, we have this entire atomweight Grand Prix that we market, right? Because Angela disappears off the scene. So we're like, well, we got to do something. We're not going to strip her of her belt, especially now that I hear these stories. I'm like, well, heck no, I'm not going to take your belt away from you, because I mean, it's kind of customary in this business that if you can't defend your belt in a year, you lose it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think so, or else they do an interim championship, right?
Yeah, typically it's something like that. But instead of doing that, we're not stripping her of her belt because it's a pregnancy thing. Now that I hear these stories, I'm like, heck no, we're not stripping her of her belt. Like you see all this other crap she had to go through, like breast milk spilling all over the ring. I don't know what's going on. Like it's not pretty. Maybe it's milk, maybe it's tears. She's an emotional wreck. And so on top of it, like now we got all this. And so we market this entire atomweight Grand Prix. It's an eight woman tournament. And then she has to come back. And a whole year's worth of stories have been now marketed around you. And so now you're stepping back into this and you're fighting the champion of the Grand Prix, which is Stamp, someone I recruited. And then you step into that match. So how did you feel coming into that, given all this stuff then? Because I asked you about your nerves prior and then coming out of, like, talk to me about your headspace by the time you got there, because you took the extra time training.
You know, by the time that I got to Singapore, fight week, fight night, you know, my confidence was at an all-time high. And I think like what gave me even more strength was knowing that I overcame all that adversity.
Awesome.
And you know, everything that I went through just made me stronger. And so when I stepped in the cage, I knew for a fact, I was like, there's nothing that this woman can do to me that I haven't already overcame. You know, I've overcome so much worse and a lot harder. So, you know, and also like knowing that my daughter was there, I like took her and my mom, like they were backstage with me. And then when I walked out, they were ringside. So just knowing that my daughter was there and she was going to be witnessing me in the ring for the very first time, like, I was like, there's nothing that's going to stop me. Like, you know, it's kind of like a mama bear mentality. When you go out there, you're like, I'm going to do everything I can to protect my baby. And it was like, it just gave me so much more strength to overcome a liver shot of all things and then come back stronger.
Well, we'll get to that liver shot in a second, but when you were in the locker room, was Ava in the locker? Ava is her baby. So yeah, there's a lot of details here. I'm afraid that listeners might be missing out on. So was your baby in the locker room with you while you were warming up, or did you just were they kind of like hanging out backstage? And if so, like, was it distracting? Because this is different. Like you've never done this before.
You know, being the main event of the night, there's many hours that passed before then. So they came in a car later that night. So I was able to warm up and do all that beforehand. And then, you know, right before I walked out, then they came in. And but it was like very natural for me because already I had gone through hundreds and hundreds of training sessions with her in the same room. Yep. You know, doing all that preparation beforehand was really key. And so, you know, it was just like being at home. Like I felt very comfortable, and being able to switch modes between mom mode and then fight mode. Doing that seamlessly was also very important because we were able to do that here in the gym. Okay, mom's got to go train now. I'm off to the side. Okay, I'm done training. Boom, full time. Mom's back, you know? So yeah, that was really important. Me being able to figure all that out.
When a lot of athletes, they go in and they train and you spend time training. And then when you're done training, you're thinking about your training, right? And you can kind of mentally screw yourself a bit in essence, whether you've had a good day or bad day, you start overthinking things and you have to pretty much shut that off and go into mom mode. And it's almost as if she's a distraction for you so that you are laser focused on your training. And then when you're not training, you have her, and this helps athletes execute balance. Like it would help you execute balance more efficiently than most athletes, I'm guessing, perhaps. I don't know. Theory.
I hear you. Yeah, because I know before I had Ava, there's so many times where you can play 1,000 different scenarios in your head about how the fight's going to go out. You can stay up till, 3 a.m. still thinking about training and fights. But yeah, every minute that I was with Ava, it was just all about Ava. And, when she napped, I napped. So I was able to get my recovery, and I was like, I got to nap now, whether I'm tired or not. And I was usually always tired, but yeah, it definitely, I think I agree with you on that.
Okay. So going back to your mom brought Ava to the arena a little bit later in the evening. You warm up, you fought Stamp. Stamp catches you with that liver shot.
Oh yeah. I felt it. It was, right on the button, perfect timing. I watched the playback and I was like, yeah, she just whoop, poof, right there and very accurate. And I did what I had to do to try and recover, and I just knew I had to buy time. I needed to protect myself because there's no way that I wanted her, swarming on me. I didn't want the referee to stop it. I had to, make sure I was okay, defend myself at all times, and then, I think, eventually just get back. I stayed in the fight. I think that was the most important thing. Like as soon as I got hit, I wasn't like, oh no, it's over. I was like, okay, I gotta pull myself together. I was like, I gotta get myself back so I can recover, and just mentally still being engaged and wanting to acknowledging that I'm upset, I'm hurt, but I need to do what I need to do to get back on my feet. I need to move forward. How am I going to move forward? How am I going to finish her? Like that was my mentality when I got hit.
All right. I'm a novice. What does a liver shot feel like?
Oh, yeah. Like you get everything sucked out of you. Like you just like deflate. Kind of like a balloon. And it
takes a couple seconds. Like you get hit with the shot, and usually there's like a 3-second delay. Or maybe a little less than that. But
because of adrenaline?
No, it's just it's almost like it takes the blood like time to circulate, like a full rotation or whatever before. But you get shot, and then you're like you're good, and you're bouncing. And then just like second or two later, you're like. And it's as if somebody just hit a switch and shut all systems down.
I figured there has to be another novice listening, right?
Oh, for sure. It's I don't know. It's not a fun thing to experience at all. I don't know. I will say it makes legends of like Angela taking a liver shot like that and then being able to finish off the fight, because it like pretty much when you get hit, I've finished a couple fights with liver shots. And so typically once that happens, it's like the body shuts down. So for you to come back from that it's impressive. Let me ask you this then, because concerning the liver shot, like I want to apply this to life. You know, you talked about mentally staying in the fight. And I'll ask you about something maybe that's a little sensitive here, because you had that terrible car accident a couple years back, and that shook you up. And I saw pictures of the car, and it was pretty bad. I mean, talk about this, like when the chips are against you, or you know, you put yourself in a position where life has kind of stacked itself. You know, you've taken that liver shot of life. Like, how is it that you develop this mental toughness? How do you mentally bounce back from that and continue moving forward without that shaking you to the point where you are not the person you once were?
I think for me, like ever since I was a kid, like I was just instilled in me, like never quit, like never tap out, never give up, you know, keep fighting. And I mean, when life knocks you down, and it will, right? There's a bunch of things that you could do. I mean, you're going to be realistic. Like, you're not just going to be like, everything that comes your way, deflected. You know, there are going to be times where you're going to get down and you're hurt and you're depressed. And I think it's important to, acknowledge what's going on. I'm in a dark place right now, or I'm hurt, or I don't know what to do. But I think you can't stay there for too long. You know, everyone gets down at some point. It's natural, it's normal. But trying to find like a greater purpose, trying to find the light at the end of the tunnel. Like for me, something that my parents always taught me was like, go back to gratitude. Like, what are 5 things that you're grateful for right now?
Oh, yeah.
And there's always something that you can be grateful for, that you're like living and breathing, that you have,
Amen,
you know, a house under your roof, you have food on your table. So I think when you go back to just simple things like that, 5 things you're grateful for, 10 things you're grateful for, and read that list back to you. You know, slowly things start to get brighter and things start to get better. And for me, like, that's what I had to do. Just take small steps and just keep reminding yourself, you know, that, you know, you're in a good place and there's so much to be grateful for. So yeah, I was thankful for my life, for my family. And that's what got me back up on my feet.
Let's talk about your family. For the listeners that don't know, the Lee family is like, your dad's your head coach, and he's pretty much engineered all his children. Like, I actually don't think that Angela's mom gave birth to her. First of all, they look too close in age. Like her mom, they look like sisters. So that's the first thing that's like throws you off. Secondly, I think that they were all grown in like a petri dish of some sort, because every single one of them, like, because I mean, her brother's a champion. And Christian's last performance, by the way, amazing. Victoria came into the organization, and you know, it's like what about your youngest sibling, Adrian? What's the plan there?
Oh, he's gonna be something different, I swear. He's a junior in high school right now, so he's focused on wrestling season. He's gonna be he's been competing in like pancreation tournaments and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's definitely itching to get in there as well. And yeah, I know it's pretty crazy when I like sit back and I listen to it, actually, like all 4 of us training our whole lives and, you know, fighting. Like it's pretty nuts. You don't see that every day.
I was actually thinking about this, you know, when I was thinking about talking to you, and I thought usually there's at least one sibling of the family, at least one, that's the black sheep that's going to say, no, I want to get into surfing. I mean, after all, you guys live in Hawaii. Or no, I want to skateboard. I don't want to fight. And all of you, what is it? What did your dad put in the water? Like, this is like some Jim Jones Kool-Aid y'all are drinking or something. I don't know what's going on.
All of us, and we love martial arts. We love competing. We love the technique. But I think it's something more than that. Like, we love the challenge of what martial arts gives you, you know, because it's essentially like you learn so much about yourself. You have to challenge yourself constantly. You know, in drills, you have to keep pushing yourself. So I think maybe that's what's makes it so enticing and so addictive, like that we all like love to do this, because it gives us that challenge that no other sport can kind of give us, I guess.
Talk about the setup with your family, the camp, and your mom and dad, their history, their pedigree, and how much is your mom involved in fight training at camp? Is she actually involved in fight training at camp? Like, kind of set the stage for the audience here.
Let's see. Before me or my siblings were born, my parents, they were competitors. They competed in martial arts. Actually, their background was Taekwondo. And then they kind of started to move into the early beginnings of mixed martial arts, like making it more geared towards self-defense. And for self-defense, you have to include, all areas, striking and takedowns and grappling. So, they opened a bunch of schools in Canada, and that's where me and Christian were born, my brother. It wasn't until, and we grew up on the mats, just like how Ava's in the gym with us all the time. Like, we were mat babies.
What year were you born?
I was born in 1996.
So 96. So did your dad start incorporating more of an MMA mentality, your mom and dad, into their martial arts schools pre or post 1993?
Sorry, wait. Let me just double check, because
That's awesome.
Have we ever had somebody do that?
No.
I don't want to get him mad or anything. Yeah, pre.
Okay, because you know the reason why I asked that, right?
That's when the UFC and everything
Exactly.
was starting.
And so it just shows how proactive your parents were about it. I mean, really, honestly, I don't know why it took the Western world so long to catch up on this, because you can see this philosophy in Bruce Lee's training, in a lot of his movies. Even you can see armbar techniques in the 70s, the 60s, and it's like, well, how was he doing that back then, and nobody even thought of it again until, I don't know, 1994, in the Western world, that is.
Did you hear the story about how my dad was training with Matt Hume and, and them up in Seattle?
Yeah.
I was like, that just trips me out still, because I was like, I met Matt when I was
one.
Well, one, but when I actually met him, when I got signed to one, I was 18. So I was he was I met you 17 years ago. And I was like, what?
Yeah. So that to me has destiny written all over it.
It's crazy. Yeah.
So, okay. So your mom and dad opened these martial arts schools, and then you guys are obviously born or engineered in a lab. Either way, I'm not really sure. We'll just leave it at that. The mystery is still unknown. And then fast forward. So you all are training. Then you have two younger siblings. You continue training. When did you guys end up in Hawaii?
Actually 7. I was 7.
Okay.
So I pretty much grew up in Hawaii, and then Victoria and Adrian were born in Hawaii. Yeah.
Okay. And then fast forward now to camps. What's a camp like with, training with your family like that? I mean,
in the beginning years when I first joined one, my mom's crazy. So she would get on the mats with us. She loves to train still. But yeah, in the beginning years, she would be my training partner. She would drill with me.
That's so awesome.
Oh my gosh. When soccer kicks were still legal in one, I'd be throwing her legs to the side and just placing the kick right there. And it's nuts. She's nuts, but she is such a good sport about it. She loves training. She's a martial arts at heart, so she understands. But nowadays, my mom, she's, believe it or not, almost 50, and so she's in full on grandma mode. She helps take care of Ava and Aaliyah.
Angela, I'm almost 50. All right.
No, what?
Yeah. So,
you know what? I don't believe you guys take such good care of yourselves. Seriously, I don't believe it. That's why that's crazy.
Yeah. I maybe I look 45, but your mom looks like 33 or something. So don't talk like she's too old to train. I'm training all the time, every day. I'm grinding still.
I'm curious. So, any teenager or whatever goes through that family drama where you're just butting heads with your parents at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever have that in camps, and how did y'all resolve it?
Or just in life?
Yeah, too.
You or your brother
too.
Christian, or any of your siblings for that matter.
Mm-hmm. I think there's definitely pros and there can be cons when you do everything with your family.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're super close, and with all of us training as well, of course, there's going to be disagreements. There are so many times where we don't want to train. Why are we training? And, doing other sports, like let us try other sports. We tried other sports, not good at other sports. Come back to training. But it's hard because it's like we're in the gym and we're together, then we come home. Back when I was still living with my family, like still together, seeing everybody at home. So of course, like when you see somebody too often, you're like, like rubbing up against you. I need my space. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think, there's so much more pros than cons, just because that kind of like relationship between like coach and player, it's like amplified so much more because like my dad's known me my whole life. So he like literally knows like how I think, how I work, like,
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just so unique. Like he's been my coach my whole life. And I mean, I don't know. I'm really grateful for him. I couldn't imagine training under anyone else.
If you and your siblings ever fought, are you guys just throwing haymakers and your dad has to come in like chokeholds to break up like fights when you guys are young?
Oh my God. Whenever anyone asks how like childhood was, I always feel so bad because I'm the oldest out of all my siblings, and I was such a bully to Christian, especially. Like we're 2 years apart and 2 years older, so I was kind of bigger and like stronger up until I think it was like 14. I had all of those years of just like picking on him, and we'd like spar, and I'd always like never let him win. But when he finally like outgrew me and he got his like strength, the moment he tapped me in the gym, oh my God, I was like, no, that did not just happen. I didn't accept it. And he was like laughing because he knew. He's like, yeah, I'm bigger now. You can't bully me.
Was he graceful about being bigger? Like, because you probably would have had several years of retribution. I'm that guy. Just FYI.
Honestly, I deserved it. I truly did. But Christian, he's like just the sweetest guy, and he gave me mercy. He didn't hold it against me.
Lucky.
Yeah, that's a good brother right there. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Okay, so camp's going well this camp. And we talked about you coming back for the Atomweight Grand Prix, a 1.5-year story built off of that, and now we have this. Do you call this a rubber match with you and Zhang?
Different weight classes, but I'd say definitely, yeah. I mean, plus our last 2 fights, like they went to the 5 rounds, so this is like technically round 11, and we know each other pretty well. That's a long time to be in a fight with somebody.
Like I was reading on I saw the video on your socials. You said that Zhang's her last several fights, she's playing not to lose rather than to win.
Yeah, I thought I'd make her a little bit mad about that.
You what?
No, but I mean, like I have seen her, so like she's been more active than me, because she didn't have a baby. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like when I saw her last few fights, like there's a moment when if you're a champion for a long time, like at some point you kind of become like stagnant. You kind of become like, I mean, and you can see they were like decision fights. Like that's her style. Like she's like a touch and move kind of girl. Like, like she likes to try and like, point them up and then try and finish them in the later rounds. But I mean, for me, it just didn't look like she's going in for the kill, trying to take every single contender out. And I mean, that's what I saw. But with my statement, I think she's going to be like, I'm going to try and finish you. So I'm like, that's good. That's good. I want her to take the fight to me. Let's go.
How much of this is there any kind of mind games with this for you? Like trying to take her out of her game plan with, if you can get her riled up, then she's not executing.
Right. Because like, yeah, the smart game plan for her would be to, take me to the championship rounds and try and see and test my cardio, test my body in the later rounds, like, right. But yeah, I think no matter what I say, I think she's smart. She's been champion for a while and she's going to do what she thinks is going to get her the win. But I think that all changes when we start to exchange hands and she starts to get hit. Like she's not going to want to keep getting hit. She's going to want to hit back at some point. And I think that, that's what makes a fight, a fight's a fight. And, for me, like I know what I want to do to I know what my strategy is, and I have a good idea of what her strategy is too. But yeah, I think that I don't know. I think that my game plan is solid, and I'm just gonna take her out in the early rounds.
So, okay, let's assume that you beat her in this match. Then what happens? Because now there has to be a rubber match at strawweight because you lost the first match to her. She's now lost her belt to you. She's obviously going to want to rematch for the belt at some point, whether it's immediate or not. So now we're
That's crazy, man.
Yeah,
That's
right?
gonna
I
be
mean,
like what the fourth time around.
right, exactly. Like, so when does this end between you two? I mean, come on.
I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens from there.
Assuming you beat her, then you've been talking about. I've heard about this hashtag Mom Champ Champ.
Yep.
Is that your hashtag? Did you make this one up?
I did.
Okay, but hold on. It sounds funny. But after we just like heard the stories of all the emotion, the hormones, getting punched in the breasts, and the lack of confidence and everything, like that hashtag means a lot more to me now than it did when I read it the first time. I'm going to say that. So explain to me, Mom Champ Champ. Let's talk about this.
Well, for me, like my first fight back since my pregnancy was with Stamp. And, that win meant so much to me because, it was my first fight as a mom and it changed me so much. I feel like I was a completely different fighter. So being able to defend my belt and get back to where I was, and I think that was like my best performance of my career so far. So that fight meant, yeah.
Okay.
I really feel like, but this fight is, I feel like it's for like my legacy kind of a fight. I've been after this like double champ status since 2019 and it slipped away from me then, but I feel like it's mine for the taking now. And, so yeah, but getting the second title in this next weight division while also, being a mom, I don't know. I think it just means so much more now. And so, yeah, maybe it wasn't my time in 2019, but now.
I don't know. I don't think it's that impressive. I think like one baby, one championship. If you're going to be a double champ, you're going to have two babies.
Stop.
No, not in the cards. It'll be mom champ champ or mom champ. I don't know. Whatever hashtag you want to make up.
Man, I think that's enough, man. I think I'm doing a lot already.
Okay, I'll give that to you. You're definitely juggling a little bit more than I did in my career. I mean, marginally more, but a little bit more. I'll just say that. So, okay, hey, when you and I were in LA, speaking of juggling things, when you and I were in LA, we went on to Brendan's Food Truck Diaries. By the way, how was your breakfast burrito?
So good. So good. You're missing out, Rich.
Yeah, my egg whites were delicious. I'm not going to lie. So
lame.
I had egg whites and chia pudding. I ordered.
Of course you did.
So Brendan on Food Truck Diaries made the comment or asked you the question about we're coming in the US and we're entering here and now we're on Prime Video. Do you feel like you are the brand ambassador? Like you're carrying this entry into the US on your shoulders?
I know that it is a huge moment for one and all the fighters. It's exciting times. I think that, I've been looking forward to this moment for a while. I think it's finally like one's finally going to be able to get the exposure it needs in the US, and capture this audience. So I'm telling everybody about it. I'm like, you can watch me on Prime Video. It's cool.
But do you feel any added pressure because you are one of the key figures that's carrying this? Obviously, I mean, you, DJ. I mean, so any added pressure for you there?
For me, actually, thankfully, no. I mean, I don't try to think about it too hard because, I mean, for me, I've had the honor also of like headlining and being the main event for so many cards now for one championship, and being the main event is like a lot of pressure in itself. So being the main event, but not just being the main event, like being on the second Amazon Prime card video show it's a huge thing, and I try not to overthink it because I think when you think about it too hard, then you start to feel the pressure and it starts to build up like, oh my God, these people are going to be watching me. I need to make a good impression. I think that I'm just going to go out there and do what I do. And I think that's just gonna, capture the audience, and that's what's gonna gain the attention. So I'm not gonna try and put on an extra spectacular show. I'm just gonna go out there and be Angela Lee, and yeah, I think it's gonna go great.
Yeah, Angela, when I think about like back in my career, I can remember the first time that I fought in front of, say, like 10,000 people, right? I mean, the match prior to that was probably in front of, I don't know, 500 or 600 people at some little bar or club or martial arts school or whatever. And then suddenly I step into an arena, and people always ask me about the added pressure, and I'm like, it's just another Friday night at the gym for me type of mentality, right? Because I'll say this, for me, winning and losing, you talk about added pressure and you talk about trying to put on a show for the fans, and whether people are disappointed or they like it, it doesn't matter, because when I come home at the end of the night, win or lose, even if I win, if I fall below the expectation that I had for myself, then I'm my own worst critic, right? Like, I could care less what the armchair quarterback has to say about me or that Monday morning reporter, as much as I have to stare myself in the mirror, winning or losing, and know, like, you fell short of 100% today. Like, you only gave 95, or you failed here, you didn't execute there, or you lost, or whatever that may be. And so I never had any extra pressure for myself, because I know that whether I was fighting for a championship or just fighting another fight, every fight that I had was the most important fight for me at that time, right? And so I never, like, me personally, I never had any extra pressure ever. Just never bothered me, because it was like, I already have enough pressure. I already hold myself to a high enough standard. So with that, talk to me about losing when you, after a loss, because you don't have many. So what does it feel like coming home, sitting in that locker room after a loss? Talk to me about that and the thought processes and what your mind goes through.
Oh man. So yeah, when I fought Zhang, it was like March of 2019. Yeah, 2019 was my first loss of my entire career, professional and amateur too. So that was, it was tough. It was hard. And I tried to tell myself it didn't bother me, but it bothered me. And, then I tried to, fight again at the strawweight division, and I didn't get the win there either. I lost the decision. And that really put me down even worse, because I tried to be like, okay, I'm going to bounce back from this. Let's do it. And my mind was still not in like a good headspace. Like, I still wasn't. So losing again. Oh man, I was really down, and I was just doubting if I'm a good fighter, if like, why am I the champion still? Like, cause I stepped up to strawweight division. I was still atomweight, still the title holder at atomweight. And yeah, it definitely messed with my head, and took me a while to get out of this funk. What actually helped me, finally kind of start to get over and shake it off was, there's a group of kids at our gym. We take them to competitions and stuff, and we were taking them to this competitions. It's like amateur world competition, all the way in. What was it? It was Rome. So we went to Italy, and we took this group of kids from our gym. We've known them since they were young, so they've been with us for a while. And I got to coach them. Me, my dad, Christian, my brother and sister, Adrian and Victoria, were competing, and then a couple other kids from the gym representing Team USA. So it was crazy for me, because I remember what it was like to be their age, going, flying across the country for the first time and competing on a world like stage. So it was an amazing experience. There was tons of other kids from different countries, and these kids actually knew who we were, and they're like, we watch you guys, and we're such big fans. Like, for me and Christian, they were coming up to us, and like all different kind of countries, like Ireland, Russia, Kazakhstan. Like, it was such a cool feeling, and it just felt, I was so humbled, and to like kind of go back to where I started, and then being able to coach like this next generation of kids, and they had such admiration for me. Man, I came back from that trip like just full of, my heart was full, and I was like, this is like a greater purpose than just, this is so much more important than just like my loss. And like, for me, I was able to I don't know, just I was filled with more gratitude, and I had like a purpose. I was like, I'm here not just for myself and to compete and win or lose. I'm here like to help these kids achieve their dreams, and I got to help them. Few kids from our gym, they won the world championships. I mean, at amateur level, but still, it's a huge accomplishment. And so for me, I was just so happy for them and so happy to be a part of that I came back, with like a clearer vision and a clearer purpose, and was able to kind of like rebuild myself. And then I was able to defend my title. I had a great camp. Yeah, that's kind of what happened.
That's awesome. So you found your why, essentially, is what you're talking about, really. And that's a great story. I'll say this. I've never in my life, like in my career, I'd never suffered like 2 back-to-back losses. Had enough. I had my share of losses, but never 2 that were back-to-back. So I know how much my confidence was shaken after a loss, let alone if I were to have had 2 back-to-back. So coming back from that the way that you did is, impressive nonetheless. So, and now you're bouncing back up to that weight class. And are you going to give me a prediction with you and Zhong for this? Well, we should give the date. Like, tell the audience, set the stage.
Okay.
All right. This, like, you got to sales pitch this thing.
September 30th is when it's going to be aired live, US prime time. It'll be October 1st in Singapore for those who are in Asia. But yes, I will be challenging Zhong. This is our 3rd fight together, and this is at the strawweight division of 125 pounds.
So it'll air Friday night here in the US at 9 p.m. on September 30th.
Yes. So
Yes.
yeah, I know it's so weird because when they made the announcement, I kept saying September 30th. And then I look and I see like, oh, it's going to be October 1st. So October 1st is for those who are watching live in Singapore, who are going to go to the show. But September 30th is going to be airing live. You can watch it on Amazon Prime Video.
Uh-huh.
Super easy. I know everyone has Amazon Prime.
All right. And there's bad blood between you two. She's called your mom a bunch of bad names, and are you going to shove her at the weigh-ins? Come on. What kind of drama are we putting behind this thing?
I'm never a troublemaker, but I don't take anything from anybody either. So, we'll see. We are professionals at the end of the day. My daughter will be watching, but I want her to see that her mom's a badass and her mom don't take nothing from nobody.
Okay.
So.
All right. So then, what's your prediction on this one?
Let's see. 2nd round TKO.
On the feet or on the ground?
On the ground.
Okay. So you're getting up on the ground. I'm picturing you on her back right now, slamming some punches in the side of her head, according to your prediction. All right.
We'll see.
Well, hey, on my commentary, this is coming out, so I'm gonna say Angela predicted. Hey, just switch gears real quick before I let you go, Angela. Your brother, talk to me about his last performance. Masterful. And how's he doing and what's going on with him? Set the stage for the fans. Christian, he's our lightweight champion, 1 championship. Go on. You can continue with the rest of the accolades.
All right. Man, there could not have been a more perfect fight than that. Like, he just destroyed Okrayun, and I knew he would. That is the Christian Lee who's the true champion. And we were so upset with what happened the first time around when they fought in the decision. But we knew he was going to do everything to set it straight, and he did just that. I don't think Oak knew what hit him.
Nope.
I mean, it was just.
I think he knew. I think he knew what hit him when his face snapped back and saw the light strike. Like when you see the halo above you, like, oh wow. It's a great lighting system.
At the end of round 1, he was like, "What was that?" And then round 2 was, it was over.
Yeah, you could tell. You could tell that when that look came on his face, like, Christian he knew Christian's figured out my game plan, because you could see Christian like pumping the jab and freezing Oak in his footwork, like he would freeze and shell up, and it's like that's just never a good thing. So I'll say this about the first performance. I wasn't shocked that the decision went the other direction. Like, it was close enough where I could, like, when I was like, I'm gonna sit there like, I'm glad I'm not a judge here, and so I wasn't like it wasn't like, oh my God, but nonetheless, like he's like, I'm not leaving a question in the judge's hands at this point in time. Has there been any talk about the rubber match between him and Oak by chance? I can't imagine Oak wanting that anytime soon.
Yeah, no, we haven't heard nothing from it. And by the way, Christian just totally demolished him. I doubt that he's gonna want to run back. So
who would Christian want next?
I don't know. I mean, there's I think the lightweight division is one of the toughest divisions in one for but Christian's he's taken out like many of the contenders already. So I don't know. I mean, I'm stepping up in weight to try and claim double champ status.
You're
Maybe
stepping up to lightweight? Are you challenging your brother? Is this some sibling rivalry back from when he submitted you the first time?
I bet one would love that though, right? They would.
Yeah, that wouldn't be. I'll tell you what. I would pay. You know what I would pay to watch? You and your sister.
I know. There's talks about that. Everyone wants to see that, right?
Well, who would your dad coach?
Ooh.
He can't coach both.
Yeah. Who's his favorite? Who's his favorite daughter? Angela, come on. Who's your dad's favorite daughter?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. No, listen. Hey, Angela, I appreciate you coming on. I think Cody has the rapid round for you here. He's got five rapid round questions that you're under the gun with. So,
all right. At age 17, who would win, you or your sister?
I feel like she'd beat me up, man. She's evolved so much more than I did at 18. Like, I feel like she has a much wider skill set than I had at 18.
So I'm the oldest of 7, and that's very true. With our youngest, it's like you were bullied and then shown the way too, all in the same loving process, right? And they are so much better than me or my other brothers.
Yeah. I was telling Cody about the training footage of you and your sister, the side-by-side footage where it's really cool, like really cool. Go ahead, Cody. Sorry. This is the rapid round. We're slowing it down.
Would you rather only buy used underwear or used toothbrushes?
Oh, God.
Mm-hmm. That's tough.
Underwear. I feel like, that's just, ugh.
Yeah, that's rough. Which finish of yours is your favorite?
I think the anaconda choke.
Why?
I mean, I don't know if you remember the backstory, like that I had like pneumonia just a few days before. So it was just a really sense of urgency in that fight for me. There was all this hype about Estella. She was a great striker, but to be able to take her down and then sink that choke in, like, I think it was just perfectly executed. And I was really happy with that submission.
Yeah. Okay.
If you had to pick an air freshener for your car, would you choose your sweaty gloves after working out or the fruit called durian?
I choose durian. I don't mind it. I like it.
You like the smell of it?
The smell, no, I gotta admit. But my gloves, oh my God, we gotta put them in a rotation.
Fair enough.
I got the last one.
Oh, go ahead.
All right. So we'll make it pregnancy related.
So I'm going to apologize ahead of time for whatever he's about to ask you, Angela. Sorry.
To any mothers that are struggling with getting back into the rhythm of life after giving birth, what would you say to them to just instill a little bit of confidence and be able to motivate them to keep going?
Everyone faces their own battles. And I'd say, like, the worst thing that you could do is compare yourself to someone else because you have no idea what they're going through and they have no idea what you're going through. So, just like have a lot of grace for yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. Everyone's trying to figure it out as they go. And just take it one step at a time.
Did you steal that from the Book of Proverbs or something?
No, it was well said though, right?
Yeah, well said. Well said. Sounded biblical to me. Angela, listen, I appreciate you coming on. Hey, for the listeners out there, where can they reach you?
I'm mostly on Instagram. You can catch me at Angela Lee MMA.
Yeah.
And stay tuned, guys. You better tune in and watch me put it down and catch that second strap on Amazon Prime Video 2.
That's right.
September 30th.
With a second round TKO as predicted by the champ herself.
I'm only watching up to round 2, just so you know.
Hey, she's so confident that if she doesn't finish it by round 2, you can go ahead and turn TV off.
Facts.
There you go. Angela, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate you hanging out with us tonight.
Yeah, no problem. It was great chatting with you.
Quite Franklin is providing this podcast as a public service, but it is neither a legal interpretation nor legal advice, nor a statement of Quite Franklin policy. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation of that product or entity by Rich Franklin or Quite Franklin. The views expressed by guests on the podcast are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. Views and opinions expressed by Quite Franklin employees or representatives are the views and opinions of the persons expressing them, and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of Quite Franklin or any of its officials or principals. Nothing heard on this podcast at any time is medical advice or is intended as medical advice. The listener must always consult his or her personal physician or other qualified medical professional regarding any questions of a medical nature. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact our general counsel.